Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to today's Advisicon Academy training. My name is Amanda Carlson, and I'm the marketing coordinator here at Advisicon. We are a group of authors, teachers, consultants, and technologists offering training in the Microsoft technologies, project management, and methodology. With attending any of our training sessions, we offer PDUs, as we are a registered education provider with the Project Management Institute. At the close of today's session, I will give some instructions on how you can claim your PDUs and how to get in contact with us for any questions you may have. Now, before we get started, I'd like to go over a few things so you know how to participate in today's event. Please review the control panel that should be on the top right of your screen. The audience is muted during this session, so in order to ask questions, you will need to submit them in the questions window of the control panel. This webinar will be recorded and uploaded on the Advisicon YouTube channel for those who could not attend today's session live. Please note that any questions or comments submitted will not be displayed in the recording, nor will any of your personal information be shared. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's guest instructor, Sabi Warach. So without further ado, I will hand this presentation over and we can get started.
Excellent. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Sabi Wadach, but before I start, let's say who's Sabi? My full name is Sarabjit Singh Wadach. That's why it's Sabi. Every time I'm ready to board a plane, usually in front of me there are 2-3 folks, and usually there is Mr. John, and Mr. John hands over his boarding pass, and the TSA agent says, "Hey, welcome, Mr. John," and Mr. John walks in, and usually behind Mr. John is Miss Emily, and Miss Emily gives her boarding pass, and the agent says, "Welcome, Miss Emily," and Miss Emily walks in, and then I show up with my boarding pass, and the agent just looks at the boarding pass and looks at me and says, "Welcome, welcome." So that's why it's Sabi. I was speaking at a conference in Utah, and one of the attendees said, "Is it Sabi? Can I make it a little bit more spicier?" I was like, "Go for it." So guess what? He gave me a new name, Wasabi. Like, made it a little bit more spicier. I'm currently managing a program with another program manager from the business side. His name is Dwayne Whitehurst. He got hurt. He was out for at least 6 weeks, and the team gave me a new name, Dwayne plus Sabi, Duabi. But the most fun one, which I really enjoy, is a new name given to me called Wabi Sabi. Well, if you don't know what Wabi Sabi means, it's a Japanese proverb. What it means is we always run for perfection, but there is always this beauty in imperfection which we should start appreciating. So I was like, "What? That's just like me. I'm gonna basically change my name to be Wabi Sabi." Well, I came to the United States in the year 2003, and the city I come from is the most perfect city in the whole world. It's called Chandigarh. You don't even have to remember it. Just ask Google the most perfect city in the world, and my hometown will show up. It's northern part of India. It's about 5 hours drive from New Delhi. BBC did a study in 2016 and said Chandigarh is the most perfect city in the whole world. So if that's not on your bucket list, I will highly encourage you to put that on your bucket list. I did my bachelor's in computer science and engineering from Punjab Engineering College in India, and then went to Portland State to do my master's. My master's was in engineering and technology management. Full-time, I work for City of Portland. I'm a senior technology manager there. Started my journey as a software developer, became a project manager, headed the development group, and then was a PMO manager. I'm also a adjunct faculty at PCC, teach project management, software engineering, and user support, all kind of cool stuff. I'm pretty engaged with the local PMI chapter, PMI Portland. I'm the past president of the chapter. I love that presidential picture. I teach the PMP prep course. I've been mentoring individuals for the last few years at PMI now. I'm also an angel investor, invest in startups, all kind of cool stuff. I'm an international speaker, go around the world and speak. I'm involved with some of the local, angel investing groups, OTBC and TIE. Do some consulting and run the DevOps simulation for different organizations. So let's talk about what DevOps is. But before we go there, let's start with what DevOps is not. It's not where you smash a development and operations team together and say, boom, this is your DevOps. That's not DevOps. Actually,
Sorry,
DevOps.
I think we're stuck on your title screen.
Huh.
There we go.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. So, where was I? DevOps. So combining traditional, it's not basically smashing development operations team together. How many times giving access for a developer into a production has solved that problem for you? And also, it's not focused on tooling and automation. Most of the times, a business goes out into attend the conference and they buy an excellent tool, and that shiny tool is supposed to solve all the problems for the organization. How many times has that happened? Well, let's talk about what DevOps is. It's about one team culture. It's great. It's more about product focus, and it's all about faster delivery. Let's look at one team culture, what that means. Teams are very distributed right now. There are teams working in different time zones, different buildings. There are different software development. There are different operations team. There's a lot of silos which are happening right now, which is preventing those development teams to work and build on one another's ideas, and sometimes it leads to that redundancy of that work. There's also this term called shift left. The shift left is a practice in software development, which means that teams need to focus on quality, basically working on problem prevention instead of detection, and begin testing earlier. So shifting left basically requires two key DevOps practices: continuous testing and continuous deployment. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on. Okay. Product focused and project focused. More and more organizations are moving toward project centric to product focused approach. If you haven't read the Phoenix Project, I will highly encourage you to do that. Actually, Gartner did a study where they said in the last 2 years, about 36% of organizations are moving from project to product focused. And the reason for that is once a team comes together to manage a project, and once the project is done, they basically disappear. The knowledge which they retain is actually goes with them if there is no knowledge transfer or effective knowledge transfer there. So the goal of the project is actually to meet those schedule, meet the cost, meet the budget, all those triple constraints, and also deliver that value. But at the end of the day, the project is getting over the line and get that project done. Also, we also need to look at how this product is being deployed. If the team is together as a product, they look that product end to end, looking how it needs to be deployed, managed, patched, upgraded, enhanced, and hopefully ultimately retired one day. Fail fast is another term which is used in software development. It means failure is going to take place. So you just want to reduce that time lag, making sure that you detect the failures and relaying that information to that developer as soon as possible. Basically, in few hours of, if you can share that defect, running those unit tests or running integration and regression tests, that lag will really help to get a strong quality code out to the market pretty fast. More frequent deployments, if you are making sure, automation kickstarts from the code generation, it's on developer's machine till the code is pushed it out, and even after, we have to monitor the application system in production. So the entire DevOps pipeline is containing that continuous integration, continuous testing, and that deployment, automating the infrastructure setup and setting those configurations, and then software deployment is the key and is a highlight of DevOps practices. So DevOps practice is highly dependent on automation in order to make deliveries over a period of few hours and make those frequent deliveries across platforms. So there are a lot of tools available in the market, both open source, licensed tools, supports end-to-end automation of the entire delivery pipeline, including activities which are performed by the ops team, like provisioning machines, spinning those automated servers, configuring networks, firewalls, and even monitoring the performance of the software. There are many tools out there, Puppet, Chef, Kubernetes, you can talk all about that. So the CIO is thinking, why DevOps? Why do I need to adopt DevOps, and why it's so important for my organization? The speed time to market, the product which gets releases the first captures about 70 to 75% of the market, and the one which is second is able to capture 10 to 15%. So the business is going out to the IT to say, okay, we need to release these products faster into the market so that we can capture that market. Transformation to hybrid IT, when we look at hybrid IT, it's actually a combination of, on-premise, it's something in the cloud, it's CapEx, OpEx, as a service, pay-per-use consumption model. There are different models out there. So more and more organizations are moving towards that. It's people and skills. It's really tough to find the right people with the right skills. The job market is so hot. There was a research which was done by Conferry, which predicted that by 2030, the deficit in the field of technology, media, and telecommunications may reach to 4.3 million skilled workers. These are predicted to cost these TMT industries about $450 billion in unrealized revenue. So it's really tough to find those people with the right skill sets. What's shadow IT? Shadow IT is where business goes out and attends a conference, or a vendor reach out to a particular CIO or to a business director and say, okay, buy this tool and it will solve all your problems. So IT used to be a gatekeeper, not anymore. People can totally bypass the technologies and buy pay-per-view or pay subscription models and get that IT into their business, and then they give it to the IT and say, okay, now get it done. Faster response to business. When I talk about this, I say, okay, when does a business need a response? It was not today, but yesterday. So how can you be more efficient as an IT person, an IT organization, to meet the needs of this business? Cost savings, doing it faster, innovating, business growth, and digitalization. I have a great example on digitalization. Right now we are in the process of implementing a permit system. We just released it on February 10th. And one project that was for abilities for folks to upload their plans online, which is very interesting. If you're building a big building, you have to take 4 sets of those designs. You have to bring those to the city, and then people have to work not parallelly but serially. And that was costing a lot of wastage. And once the permit is issued, there was actually one individual whose role was to just stamp each and every page after that permit is issued. On an average, big building, it used to take about 4 hours for an individual to stamp those things. When we started implementing this electronic plan review, where folks can now upload those plans online, that time, once the permit is issued, it takes about a second. You hit a button and it says sign. There you go. So from 4 hours to a second, that's the digitalization which we're talking about. High-performing IT organizations, most of those, what are they doing? They're using the principles of DevOps. This is through Puppet Labs, to the State of DevOps report. They said they spent 22% less time on unplanned work and rework. They're using more lean approach. They are predicting higher IT performance and less deployment pain. Security is a big thing. How can you build that security as part of your pipeline? 200 times more frequent deployment, much faster lead times. And once there are failures, you are able to get recovery from that much faster. If you are using the latest and the best tools, most of the time, your friends, you're going to talk to your friends and you're going to recommend this organization to a great place to work. So that's also another benefit of DevOps. Lower failure rates. 80% of IT managers realize training is critical for the project success. So fewer support calls, better return on investment, faster time to value, and reducing risk. But DevOps adoption isn't, mandatory, but neither is survival. That's Gene Kim, co-author of the DevOps Handbook and the Phoenix Project. So when people talk about, where Agile comes, where DevOps comes, when you start the journey, team needs to understand the Agile transformation is the way. It's for the whole organization. So you have to start picking some metrics and set some goals that align with those strategic outcomes. There is a school of thought which says, Agile processes are focused entirely on software development, which ends when the code reaches the deployment stage. But on the DevOps side, it fills that deployment gap, as it makes sure the deployment and operational software are consideration of all other upstream tasks. So if you want to put these two concepts together like a puzzle piece, this is a one way to do that. Now, this is a periodic table of DevOps tools. The market has really exploded. This has been put together by ZBL Labs in the last 5-6 years. It's just a huge growth in there. So most of the time, folks say, okay, where should I start? Should I start by bringing a tool? Should I start by improving my processes? But what we have seen in organizations is that you have to address the culture first. If you bring in a DevOps engineer, if the folks are not collaborating and you're not focusing on bringing those teams together using same technology and tools, that's not going to work much effectively. So you have to start with the culture first. Now, digital transformation is difficult. 84% of those fail. And the reason for those is 92% of these failures are due to people issues. And 52% of these are due to poor communication. So organizations don't change, but people do. So we need to start with people by changing that culture in the organization. Again, single largest threat is people, poor communication. There's no lack of buy-in. There's no shared vision, absence of trust, lack of accountability, failure to collaborate, and disengagement. So you bring whatever you want to do, what tool, that's not going to be helpful. That will not help you until you change the culture in your organizations. Gartner did a study. They said, again, 50% of the issues for expansion of DevOps in your organization, 37% are process issues. In technology, it's just 8% of that. I love this one, culture eats strategy for breakfast by Peter. I also add to that saying, it's not only culture eats strategy for breakfast, but also for lunch, dinner, everything. So how do you change the culture? You can't directly change culture, but you need to change the behavior, and that behavior becomes the culture. So one highly good one, which I will recommend, is speed of trust. Building that trust in your organization. Trust could be considered as a tax, or trust could be considered as a dividend. So how do you build that culture of trust in your organization? So where you can start building on it and start changing that culture. Brene Brown has also a model on trust called braving. It's, setting those boundaries up. You're reliable, being more accountable, being that wall that's secure, that if I'm going and talking to you, making sure it's not going anywhere. I stands for integrity, N stands for non-judgmental, and G stands for generosity. So that's another model, braving model, on how to build trust. One of the ways which really helps is experiential learning. Dr. Coles is a Harvard professor in late 70s, early 80s. He came up with this model of experiential learning. And scientifically, it has proven that if you attend any seminar, any workshop, at the end of the day, the retention rate for any ordinary workshop is 10 to 15%. But if you're doing experiential learning, where you're doing it with your own hands, you're going to retain about 80 to 85%. So that's why simulations, in-room DevOps simulations, help a lot, and has helped many organizations to actually see the benefit of changing that culture and implementing and understanding the principles of DevOps and Agile and how they can implement in their organization. So how it works is you divide the folks into different teams. You have operations, you have service desks, you have business and product owners, you have tests, you have dev teams, and then you go through 3 different rounds of simulations, and then you do it with your own hands. It's not like somebody sitting over there and talking to you. It's like you are solving the problems on your own. I want to show a quick video about this, how simulations are helping out. And G2G3 is a company based in England, and they have they have been in the field of developing simulations. They are actually known for developing simulations for ITSM, and now they have been into the DevOps. Gartner considers them as a cool vendor. So that's a great way to create that engagement within your organization, reducing those cultural and political barriers to that organizational change, and increasing your buy-in. It also helps to reduce those implementation times and helps to deliver results faster, increases that customer satisfaction, and ultimately makes business happy by increasing their revenue. So in summary, what DevOps is, it's a cultural shift. It's not a tool. It's a cultural shift that spans all across your organizations by creating those new skill sets, no new way of doing things. It's increasing that visibility. How do you increase that visibility? When you create a culture of communication, when you can create a culture of trust within the organization, and making sure that that information is visible to everybody. And once that's visible, it will help to create that culture of trust. It's all about communication and collaboration. How can we, as a team, one team, can help our organization to be more successful? There are no silos. One silo, they have their own KPIs. That is not going to help an organization to be successful. What is that one team culture? How we can all work together to successfully deliver the value to our organization at a much faster pace, because we want to capture that market and be best, and and able to release a quality product out there. It's also about automation. What are some of the things which we can automate? What are some of those things which will, once we start automating, will give us time to do more process improvement? It's a continuous integration, continuous improvement. That's what DevOps is. It's also about empowering teams, building that culture of Agile, having that Agile mindset in your organization. This is my contact information. I'm actually doing a DevOps simulation on April 2nd in partnership with University of Portland in the Bethany campus. It's limited number of seats. I have about 25 total number of seats. Already sold 50% of those, and this is my 8th workshop here in Portland, and usually all 7 have been sold out. But here's the link. Promo code Advisicon will give you $150 off. You can also reach me at info@pmstack.com.
Great. So it looks like we have a little bit of time for some questions. So
Absolutely.
Sabi, your first question is, how does Agile and DevOps work together? Do you have people that cross over?
Absolutely. If I go back to that slide, which was, I'm going there, right here. Human activities is more Agile, and where you come in computer activities, those are, more DevOps. So those need to work together. You can't have just Agile. You can't have DevOps without Agile. So you have to build that culture of Agile to get full value about DevOps.
Great. And if you missed it in the beginning, to ask questions, you just submit those in the questions window of our control panel. Their next one here says, how do you assess the DevOps readiness of a company or large team?
Yeah, so there are some surveys which are done. There are some companies who are out there, who actually come and do an assessment for you and tell you where you are in terms of DevOps in your organization. I'm skipping the name of that particular survey, But there are organizations who are available here. You can do it on your own, but there's some cost to that. And they will actually give you a benchmark saying, okay, this is where you are and where you need to go. I will be happy to share that information later on.
Okay, great. And then I think we've got time for one more. How about, what do people like most in the DevOps simulations?
It's the aha culture. You're solving the problems on your own. It's a fun environment. It's highly engaging. You're not getting bored. There's no laptops. There are no notes which you have to take. You're actually working in the team to understand how can we do it better. It's using that Dr. Cole's principle of doing it. Then you plan for the next round. We talk about what are some of the best practices out there, and then you run the second round of simulation, and you make that money for the business. And then you learn from that experience, and then you try to make it even better.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're cutting it a little close to get into any more questions, so I will just wrap it up here for us all. First, I would just like to take a quick moment to mention that we do have more Webinar Wednesdays just like today, a continuation of these, and those are live on our website. We have just posted all of Q2, so that will be April through June. So make sure you head on over to advisicon.com and get registered for those, save your seat. We have some good topics from Office 365 to project management methodology, so there's something for everyone there. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you again for giving this opportunity. I really enjoyed it, and looking forward to do more of these.
Yeah, and we welcome your questions and feedback. And for more information, you can email us at contact@advisicon.com. Once you exit today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and you will need to complete and submit that survey in order to receive your PDUs. From there, you will receive a follow-up email within 2 business days with your PDU information. If you're watching this recording on YouTube or another social media platform, please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. And on behalf of Advisicon, Sabi, and myself, we thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you participate in our future webinars. Have a great day, everyone.